it's like so you know like where Khabib's from?
Khabib, yeah.
So like it's like a intersection of, or not intersection, but like
Intersection.
like a sister country of Russia.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, they speak Russian.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of like
It borders Russia.
different. Yeah, so it's like different dialects.
Gotcha.
So they speak Russian.
Yeah.
It's technically considered Central Asian. Like most of like the stans are called considered
Right.
Central Asian.
Yeah.
Because he looks Asian, but he's also like brown, but he speaks Russian.
And then
so
you hear them speak Russian.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try and get that mic closer to your mouth when you speak, by the way.
Yeah.
Or whoever. God. About to break the table, fool. All right. Here with my boy Noah. Super excited to have my man on.
Are we rolling right now?
Yeah, we are rolling.
Yeah, what's up?
But pretty much, yeah, I was just hyped to get this guy on just because of his resume so far. D3 volleyball player, day trader, just absolute baller, man. Definitely in monk mode right now for sure.
Yeah, definitely in focus mode. Hey, you are too, Dylan. I've been seeing your stories.
A little bit.
Yeah, he's definitely getting into that.
So how you doing, man? You good?
I'm doing really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always excited to make the trip down here.
Yes, sir.
See what you guys have been up to
Yeah.
and the podcast, and it's really interesting too. I've always wanted to get on a podcast or start something like this. Is it better like that? Oh, it's gotta be like intimate.
These mic arms are weird. You got to play with them a lot, to be honest. But so one thing I want to ask you really quick though, or let me just say this before. This isn't like an interview or nothing. We're just here to like chill and talk.
Yeah, of course.
So if we ask you questions, don't think we're just asking you questions. Like we're just chilling.
It's just spark conversation, not just for like a immediate answer.
Exactly. So how long have you been doing day trading?
So I've been I guess you could say studying or researching this craft for the past like half a year now, 6 months. It's actually kind of funny how like I kind of got interested into it. So I've got a buddy who we met at the same church. So we go to the same church. It's called Willow Creek. It's like a mega church in South Barrington.
Yeah.
And I met him briefly, didn't really get to know him. And then my godmother, who does real estate, and she's like a real estate guru for the Chicagoland area.
Oh, snap.
She was like, "Oh, you should come to my sales meeting. You know, you're undecided, still in school." Like, I was like, "Oh, shoot, aren't you that one guy from church?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur now, doing day trading. I actually own my own company that like teaches people how." And then so in like August or September of this year, we started like we connect, and then just became friends. And then we've just been working like together ever since. He's been mentoring me, and then now we're like at the stage where like we'll work together on strategies or whatnot. So yeah, this past half a year has been like a crazy like switch in my life where it went from like not knowing what to do to being like, okay, let's master this.
Yeah, it's sick. And you even took an academic leave of absence from college.
I like it's not like officially dropping out, but if I want to, I can go back. I just don't know if I want to.
Yeah, I would say I'll just better than you thought, right? Like, why go back?
Exactly. I just need to look at cost benefit or pros and cons.
Right. Unless there's an actual like switch and like you have to go to college to get a degree and whatever else you decide to go in, then do that.
If it switched that easily, you could always switch back.
Right.
I was also approached by a friend of my brother's who works in New York, Upper West Side, I think of Manhattan. I'm not sure, but he did coding, and he was like, "Oh, I can send you some like coding stuff as well," because I heard like you were doing that at school. Because I took some coding classes, and he was like, "Oh, I've been doing this since like I was 10." I was like, "Damn,
that's crazy." Coding at 10, bro.
I know.
Dude, I can't code. I remember I took game design in high school, bro. I passed with like a 63, bro. Like I was tweaking, bro. I was like, what am I doing?
He was like, I was trying to make the next COD.
Bro, low key, I was like, all right, I'm gonna make some like cool racing game, and it's like, bro, I can't even code a drag race, right? Like,
I can only make Atari.
Yeah, I swear, dude.
But yeah, so I think I'm at like the stage of my life where it's like open to new opportunities, but also like I want to like focus really on a lot of work.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, like a quick so just like a quick question for like the people that are actually watching. Can you just give a quick biography of like what you do and actually what day trading is?
Sure. So
sorry for the ghetto-ness of that.
Or like being funded by a prop firm. But essentially what day trading is so it is like an indice. But it's like investing, but there's not only more instruments, but it's a shorter period of time.
Right.
So like instead of holding an account instead of holding.
So I just want to ask you really quick.
Yeah, of course.
What is a future? That's
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing I've always wanted to ask you, even when we had a
Just another like trading instrument. It's no real different from, I guess it's kind of like I mean, this is my interpretation of it. I could be completely wrong, but it's kind of like you're trading contracts rather than shares, right? So instead of buying a share of a company, you're like, I guess, going through a broker and making a contract. Like, remember the analogy I gave you about like selling?
Yeah.
I'm borrowing like
Yeah.
a share. I'm like making a contract that like kind of like, I guess you could say the contract says I'm betting at this going lower, or like this price like dipping, which is, I think, is what classifies it as a future. Is it's what you're buying and selling as a contract rather than it being an actual share or an amount of something like Forex. Forex is another thing where it's just foreign exchange. You buy $5 with €5 or however the exchange rate is. So yeah, that's what a future is.
Okay, I got you.
To my understanding.
Yeah.
But what was I saying? Oh, funded trading. So process. So they'll say, for $500, we'll give you an access to like fake money, $100,000. So you turn 500 into fake $100,000, like with monopoly money. And then with that fake $100,000, you're trying to make like fake $10,000.
Yeah.
So then there's a profit goal, but at the same time, you have to maintain a certain percentage of income. You can't lose a certain percentage, whether that's in a day, over like overall, or there's like a trailing threshold. Like you make $5,000, lose $3,000, you're still out.
Yeah.
So that you have to maintain as like an interview process for the prop firm to see you as like a viable or a worthy trader to actually give you a live account, or at least that's how it's supposed to go.
Okay.
Sometimes in the industry, instead of giving you a live account once you pass, it'll still be a demo, but they'll pay you the money that they receive from failed attempts. So like it's $500, right? Let's say, 1,000 people buy it. That's $500,000.
Yeah.
And in statistics, 5% of traders are actually profitable consistently. 95% fail. Which is why it's such a, high demand industry, but also high risk industry as well. So if 1,000 people buy a $500 challenge and then, only 5% make it out, like you have a ton of capital to work with to pay out traders. But prop firms that do that, like the funded trader who I used to be with, they're like bankrupt now. They're like
really?
Yeah, they're in the trenches.
Damn.
Thankfully I switched to a different prop firm. But essentially you're like an independent contractor. So you don't work for the prop firm, you work with them. And you're kind of the middleman between how they can make money and you can make money as well.
Got you.
So going off like the independent contractor, so I was gonna ask you about like how it works, because there's like 3 different types of like occupation that you can have, right? So you can have like the salary occupation, which is basically it's a permanent position until notified otherwise. So like if you get fired, or if you quit, you put in your 2 weeks, stuff like that. If you work IT for Microsoft, or like if you, for example, like you worked on Wall Street or something or anything like that, you would be under a contract for a certain amount of like for your term, and then you would be making a base. So they consider like how you make income, how you would make income from that.
Yeah, so it works essentially as like a profit split. As like from a business side, like an independent contractor is similar to like a caddy at a country club is an independent contractor. They don't work for the country club, but the country club connects them to clients, golfers, so that they're paid directly by the golfers, or it goes through the country club to them. In this scenario, how you would get essentially, I guess, a payout would be it's percentage based. So let's say you pass the interview and you're now set up with a live account. let's say in a week you make $5,000. You can then at the end of the week, or depending on however the prop firm has it set up, usually it should be instantaneous. Like you want to go for prop firms that are instantaneous payouts.
Okay.
Because that shows that they're actually going through live accounts and not these like pseudo live accounts. Because people can, I mean, the actual money, you cannot transfer the money from the account to your bank account. It'll go through the country club, in this case, the prop firm. So then the country club or prop firm will then say, okay, you want to owe, $200, and then we'll give you $800. So then you'll get paid based on your performance, which prop firm you go through. I'm working with an accountant and an attorney to try to get them set up and get set up an LLC, so that way my money's more protected and I can have tax loopholes and tax benefits. It's really cool because I mean if I'm not paying the IRS, it's basically free money.
Yeah, basically. So
yeah,
might as well. So the account you have right now, that's all fake money. You're just on a demo right now.
Yes, until I get the LLC set up and then connect those two, so that way the money that I make is protected.
So when you make the LLC and connect them, then it'll be real money?
Exactly, yeah.
It's interesting. So under the LLC process, for the people that don't understand, is basically you're trying to set up your own company and you're making your own business, right?
Yeah.
So walk us through the actual process of like one, hiring an attorney, and then understanding who the attorney is going to be, and then like actually developing your actual LLC, and like the timeline of like how long it usually takes.
I'm actually not I'm not actually completely certain how long the actual process takes. Yeah, but I do know connections is actually where this comes in handy, because I've got a buddy who his dad owns an accounting firm, and I was actually talking to him and I was like, if I
he's got all the connections, man. You got everybody for everything, dude.
I was literally talking to him. I was like, so let's say I wanted to hire you or one of your friends, and he's like, oh yeah, I can give you my number, like you can contact me, ask if you need, because like I was trying to understand the process of like, how do an attorney and an accountant work together? Like, am I supposed to connect them? Like, do they work together? Like, how does that all set up with the LLC? And then he was like, so basically what you want to do is when you'll contact me. He kind of gave me like a crazy sale too. He's like, so when you contact me, I'm like, all right, I guess I'm doing this now. He's like, I'll set you up with,
it's all communication, man. It's all sales is just communication.
Crazy. It's all.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll set you up with, one of the people that works for me or myself personally. And then we'll get like, an attorney with the firm that we work with here at my company. I don't even know what it was called. Like Citadel something. So, I mean, I guess I'm lucky, and this is why it's important to make connections, because I don't have to do like the research necessary to like understand it fully. Of course, that is important, because if I don't understand it fully, then like I'm at risk to be manipulated.
Yep.
Which I mean,
getting taken advantage of, and
exactly paying more than you should, or not going to the places that you should.
Right.
But I see him as a trustworthy guy, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that's like an important step, and like one of the first steps that like to making this like an actual business.
Yeah.
And not just like some get rich quick scheme, which it really isn't. Like 6 months and not seeing a single dollar, but you have to. There's a certain certain threshold that you have to cross from being that 95% to that 5%. And that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah. Yes, and another thing with like day trading, it's not even like you have to make the money to kind of be in that top 5%. It's like the psychological aspect.
Yeah.
Like this is like day trading, it will mentally F you, bro.
Yeah,
like,
it's draining.
Yeah, it's very draining. Like I remember we had our little meeting after I got done with work that one day.
Yeah.
And he like if he sat you through and just explained like the story of this gold futures that he trades with, bro, like dude, you're lost after 30 seconds, bro.
Yeah,
there's so much like he started throwing like, oh, it's confluence or fluidity or whatever,
liquidity,
and then
volatility.
Yep, and then confluence and all that. And I'm just like, bro, what? Like, what are you talking about?
I have like it's like a 10 or 15 page like Google Doc from when I first started that is just all like, what the hell does this mean? Like, what the heck is a pip? Like interval price point, whatever, like percentage.
RSI.
What the heck does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like what is Fibonacci, which is now like a key.
That's another thing. I was like,
your life away, because that's what people can do on the stock market. You're like, oh shoot, I can press a button and then multiply my money by 5. Like, why wouldn't I? But you can also lose it by 10. But then when the risk is involved, where you can make that much money and lose twice as much just as fast or even quicker, like that starts to weigh on your conscience, and then you have to adjust accordingly.
Just because of the fact that like if you really think about it, the human brain is so complex, and like it's really hard to understand like the amount of neurons and like the electricity that you have to like develop to actually like think the way that you think, right? Because the way that like how you're set up, I would say, like, I'm not gonna lie, like I gotta give it to you, for 6 months and you're not making any money, like that's crazy. So I just want you to basically like go over like why you're not getting paid for the 6 months.
So that aspect, and then the faith aspect as well. I'm a Christian, and I think I've talked to you about that as well, about my faith and how it's just perseverance builds character, and character builds hope. And yeah, it's been a real deep interpersonal battle, and I feel like
like literally, and like for you to be able to have that ability just to cut your emotions and think how you can get better from the loss, like any millionaire will tell you that's the way to be.
What behind the phone screen?
Where's your guy?
No, really?
Okay, so like I've done research. I understand like for the most part of like what happens. So basically how it works is like you have these certain it's basically your brain all over again, right? So how it works is like you'll have these chemicals in your body. So like you'll have the serotonin, and you'll have the like for name like rut that you're trying to put yourself through now is that like, okay, like I'm getting like levels are going to be a lot lower, just because of the fact that you're not getting the punchline in like 10 seconds, right? That's going to lower your stress levels, your cortisol levels are going to drop down, your adrenal glands are going to like they're going to relax a little bit, and basically you're going to feel a lot less stress, right? So when you get back into the real world, like that's why they say like your mental health is very important to your physical health, is because of those two glands specifically, is the serotonin and cortisol. Because if your cortisol levels are high, then that means your serotonin levels are low. But if your serotonin levels are really high, then your cortisol levels are low. And the higher your stress level is, everyone already knows, like if you have too much stress, then like what it happens. It increases the aging process. You'll get a lot more wrinkles. You're going to have bags under your eyes, stuff like that, right? And then you're also going to live a worse life. You're going to have heart problems.
Heart disease,
exactly. Heart disease, cancer, respiratory rates, stuff like that, right? So like there's this new thing that I've been doing research on, is like it's stress induced, and then it's kind of like emphysema, but it's not. So emphysema is like the basically when you smoke, and it's basically the air sacs in your lungs, they basically get like shriveled. So it's basically the same mechanism, but with stress. So basically now you're getting harder breathing because of the fact that you're putting so much stress on your body. So it becomes like a big snowball effect. That's why it's just really crazy about the self gratification stuff.
Yeah, I told you, bro. Like, ask him.
Detail. He was sounding like volatility and confluence right there.
Yeah, whole nother.
Like, if you get 1 million views, you get $1,000 per million view. So
I think it's
and then
$1
it's like a limit
for every 1,000.
Yeah.
Like
so then what they do after that? So like that's after you reach a certain threshold. So that's why there's a lot more people that are making longer videos, is because you get incentivized for the longer videos as well, by getting more of like a revenue. So that's why like
burning out my like what was it, pituitary gland? Yeah, it's like burning those things out so that my life is just anyone. You can talk with anyone. You can like exactly. Yeah. And if you follow like a bill, turned 1 into 100, like then you can actually earn from it.
Yeah. Even with that though, like some billionaires will create that course or something just to get you to spend. Huh?
House hustlers?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Yeah. Like school. You know what's crazy? I actually had that for a month. So what it was, or like I don't know if I had it in the start or what, like when I had it, but basically it was $50 a month, and then basically if you were like slacking or didn't do anything, then they just kicked you out automatically. Wow. So that was basically me. So like I spent the 50, learned like a little bit of copywriting, and then they just kicked me out because I just kind of stopped doing everything. That's crazy. Which is nice though, because it's like you're not just spending this 50 month by month. They're like, all right, like you're actually not doing anything. Like get out.
Yeah.
because there's others of dollars for a course is actually crazy. Like you can watch any YouTube video, you can follow anybody on TikTok or Instagram that could teach you just as much. I feel like for free, exactly.
I got so actually I didn't know this until recently. I went down to school last week to visit, just my friends there and see how everyone's doing. And somebody that I knew who like figured out I dropped out. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing now?" And I was with my mentor, my buddy Alex, and he was like, "Oh, I'm working with him. We're day trading." And he's like, "Oh, really? Like, have you thought about school? Like, school basically an online, university or selling a course that makes you money and like can teach other people how to do the same thing." And he actually like works with an agency to like connect people with software designers or people who create courses for them so that it can all be automated and you can just be the face of the brand. So then he was talking to Alex and I, and he's like, "Oh, if you want to create this course, you like I'll give you my people's info, we can have a meeting and create a course or like some sort of automated program that you can sell and make an income out of," which I mean, it's really cool, but at the same time, like I've like those can be like just pyramid schemes, like I've known people that are
just
like
con artists.
Yeah, like they're like, "Oh, buy my program," and in the program it literally is just like tell other people to buy a program, like make your own program and then tell people to buy it, and then I'm like, "Oh shoot, my business is gonna be the stupid idea that I fell for." So it's like
it's basically all just a scam. You have to like really understand somebody and like have even like insight on the course itself from other outside sources to know if it's legit before you spend the money. And like even like me, like I follow a guy who has a course on like detailing and basically how to scale your detailing business to like tens of thousands a month. But like I just literally find any free source I can out of the guy. And he's even like came out with like a free book and stuff that has like almost 50 pages of just like advice on how to scale and stuff. So it's like you don't even almost need the course because he has his own Discord too. So think about that. How much can I learn that's in his course by just asking other people? You know what I'm saying?
Right. So I just wanted your opinion real quick with so basically what the philosopher Aristotle said is with education, right? And how it works is like a lot of people think of academia as education, which is basically just like going to school, getting a job, whatever. Basically the rat race everyone talks about, right? But how Aristotle thought about it and like how a lot of people are starting to develop that mindset too is that education comes through experience. What would you say to like would you agree on that and like also like elaborate if you do agree?
Sure. I think from the ancient philosophers that I've read into, like Socrates, Aristotle, Marcus Aurelius, Pluto. Well, Marcus Aurelius was more like stoicism and what it's like to be a man. But when it comes to like education or academia, I think education definitely comes through experience. Failure is definitely the best teacher. Like the reason why my strategy is getting better is because I failed so many times. Like every time and that's literally comes with like that millionaire mindset of like every loss is a lesson, because I've had the experience and I've actually been in the markets, whether it's a fake account or a live account. Like I've looked at the actual charts and I've actually like had a strategy or predicted or made some sort of you know educated guess or like, well, it's a game of probability. So it's like I've took my chances on those probabilities and like what went right, what went wrong. Like I journal almost all of my trades to know what's profitable, what's not profitable. Is documentation of an experience that I had. And I think when academia or like first like started, or the birth of like education, it was meant to be it was meant to be like a personal relationship with a topic at the center, and then you like you don't learn it together, you learn it from someone, but you can grow together. Like being a mentor to someone can also help you in that topic as well, because if you understand it well enough, you'll be able to explain it well enough. Like you with the pituitary glands, like you understand it well enough so you can say it easy to me because you know it. But you know it through experience, whether that's through like a lecture or a test. I feel like that's why school has like tests and quizzes, because like it's like experience in the field.
Right.
To me, I mean, anyone can like hop on TradingView or any software for free and
Yeah.
actually see like what the stock market's doing, how it's affected by certain articles of news, what are the patterns, what are the probabilities, how do the algorithms, because the market works based on algorithms. It's
Right.
all run on algos who that have cycles, and of course there's manipulation because there's so many people like in this thing. But
when you brought up like how academia was brought up by Pluto with the idea of mentorship, right? Aristotle's teacher, and then Aristotle also taught Alexander the Great. So like, I mean, everyone knows who Alexander the Great is, and like the reason why he was so good is because of the fact that he just knew everything about like every how would I describe it, an arrogance thing, like I know more than you, rather than the fact that like, for example, like how you have a mentor right now, and like how you want to spread the knowledge rather than just keep the knowledge to yourself.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where it's becoming a headache and a half when you get into like college, or like you get into anything in academia where you have people that have such high egos. It kind of like destroys your drive and passion to actually like
Yeah.
drive to understand something, right?
Yeah.
So I would say like I'm really happy that of like where I'm at because of the fact that I had the right mentors at my school, and like they actually helped me understand what's going on. And but yeah, I was gonna say like you brought up a good point about like how academia is literally just mentorship.
and I think something that gets diluted is like the whole numbers aspect. If I mean I know I have friends at U of I, and you're sitting in a lecture hall with like 700 other people, 600 other people,
Right.
like drowning out the noise of this one guy talking about this one topic you care nothing about, because like it just isn't appealing to you, especially in this day and age. Like we're talking about short term, or short term happiness, or what do we call it? Instant gratification. Yeah. And now you're in this scenario where it's not just like mentorship, it's just like lecturing. You're just sitting there listening, and you like, as much as professors can be like, oh, ask me anything, like you don't feel as a student that you can ask them anything, because like you're just one of it. This takes away the importance of it. But I think that's why I like people like Alexander the Great and Aristotle, who were mentors and mentored other people. It was based upon a relationship, not just them like, hey, you could be good at this, or you're not good at this, or you have to grow in this. Having something, the difference between like what education is supposed to be and what education is nowadays.
100%. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to touch on that you said a while ago about journaling every trade that you make. I think that's another thing with, and we can even tie this in with experience, and even and then mentoring somebody on that. Like, oh yeah, I made that same mistake way back when, right? And then you guys are talking to each other on that. Like that's just a whole nother. Yeah, it just multiplies even further. Yeah, for sure.
And I think but you have to be like diligent with journaling. I mean, like I journal like just like my thoughts, and the that thought, I not only memorize better, I understand it better, I can teach it better, and I can apply it better as well. Like the whole reason why I'm journaling my trades is so that I can apply it better the next time around, and eventually it'll get to the point where the trades that I'm journaling are all green trades, and it's with a live account. And I lost an account. What the hell did I do? Then I'm like, okay, I saw this, and then I pressed the button, and then I was like, all right, I thought this, I saw this, then I did something. I saw this, thought this, and had this. And right, what you did wrong, and what you didn't do at all.
I was gonna say, so like I was gonna tie in the way that we were talking about mentorship, and I was gonna tie it in with your religion. So for example, like one of the best teachers is Jesus himself, because if you look back, before he even had the disciples, like they were all pagans. They used to just believe in idols and all that, right? And what Jesus did when he came down is the fact that he mentored them. So I would say like, how would you use Jesus as like a mentor just in life in general?
So in scripture, in the Bible, where they talk about Jesus, they often refer to him as rabbi, which is Hebrew for teacher. Right. I believe Hebrew. And I think half of I mean, from my personal belief, like Jesus coming down was not only just to teach, but also to like to take on the sins of man in an act of love and sacrifice, in order to show his grace and also his justice, but then also teach us how to live an upright life. in scripture he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. To me, that's like the way to follow, or like the life to live, and then the truth to believe in. So I mean, for my like I mean, I wouldn't really call it a religion. I would say it's a relationship. You know, I don't really like, I don't treat it as like a rule book, but I definitely believe 100% like everything in the Bible can definitely benefit you. Like if anyone just reads it with no, you know, with not a point of even believing, they just want to read it just to see what it has or just to grow, like definitely it definitely has.
Yeah.
Like the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, written by the wisest man of all, King Solomon, who was blessed by God with wisdom. And it's literally just like that I've done that, or like that happened to me. And yeah, I think it's literally, it's like a book of life. It literally not only gives life but teaches a better life.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so like specifically with like the Proverbs, right? Like when you look at what King Solomon was actually able to do, and like you see anything that like he thought of came to life. I don't know if that's in the Proverbs as well, but I was just thinking about like when you were talking about it with Psalms as well, just because of like how, like if you look at how David was able to like go through what
It's a very like, it's kind of like a painting of like the human condition.
Yeah.
Like it not only expresses, you know, like sorrow, pain, like any type of feeling that you might have, but it also is like from like a Christian standpoint or a Christ following standpoint, it's like it perfectly paints like the struggle that actually comes with like following Christ, because it's a struggle. And there are times in Psalms where it's like why have you forsaken me? Yeah, everything goes bad, you know, like um kingdoms are after you, you know, like all of you. Why have you, like, have you abandoned me? Are you no longer there? It's like a big testing of their faith, and they're just writing about it. And David, King David, who was the father of King Solomon, and also like a man after God's own heart, was also not only a shepherd boy. And like it just goes to show that, you know, there's such a emotional standpoint, or just like a sorrowful standpoint, that can be made so beautiful into like a song, that I guess just paints the whole human condition, especially when it comes to a Christ following standpoint. But I think I mean, King Solomon also wrote some of the Psalms as well. It was like a collection of authors. So I guess that ties into wisdom as well, or from my belief.
I was gonna say it was like an integration.
Yeah, it's like, how can wisdom affect how I feel, or like how can knowledge affect how like my faith is, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, faith doesn't just come from like a blind like, oh, like you said it, I believe it. Like it's through, like we were talking about, experience, and like that ties back into mentorship. So yeah, that's a really good question.
I was gonna say because we believe, like as a Muslim, we do believe like yeah. So I was gonna say we believe in like the Book of David, like the Book of Solomon, and like what you can learn from that is, like, for example, how you said they're shepherds, right? So we believe that all the prophets that came down were shepherds, and there's multiple reasons behind it, but the main reason is like being humble and having humility and understanding the fact that you're a shepherd. You're not making, like, if you think about it, shepherds don't make money. They're not like even when King Solomon, like before he even got his like in our religion, like before he even got his wisdom and like the actual appointing of king, he was a shepherd. And even when with Jesus, right, he was a shepherd, but it wasn't of the actual term of shepherd, if that makes sense. He was also the shepherd of the people. That's how we also describe it as well, because it shows that you're responsible of multiple other things than just yourself. So there's another way to tie that as well, is like you have to understand that when you're giving out knowledge, if you're misinterpreting knowledge, or like actually like giving them the wrong information, then you're kind of like, it's kind of tying it back to being a shepherd, is like you're putting all on things.
That's really cool. I think the Muslim religion is you know, very like heavily tied into with Christianity, or like there's a lot of similarities, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like it, but you guys believe like Jesus was a prophet as well, right? That's like the biggest difference from my understanding. And I've read parts of the Quran, and you're very well versed in parts of the Bible as well. And that's like, I guess, the overarching difference between like what it means to be like a Christ follower and what it means to be a Muslim, is that like we believe he was the son of God, God incarnate. You guys believe he was a prophet. And I think there's a lot of similarities when it comes to wisdom and like living an actual like upright and what we call in the Christian religion or the Christian lifestyle, like righteousness. You know, what does it mean to like piety? Is that what you guys call it? Piety?
Yeah.
Okay.
So being a pious man.
Yeah, like someone who is like of right standing or of
Yeah.
like good living, you know, someone who tells the truth, someone who is knowledgeable, someone who leads his flock well, like you're saying, and died for his whole flock, you know,
Yeah.
all those who believe in him, because he was the leader of that flock. And yeah, that was really cool to tie into. My question for you, is it cool if I like asking questions as well? From your understanding of like the Quran and the Bible, what would you say is like your biggest like issue with both of them? Like, what's your biggest issue with the Quran and what's your biggest issue like with the Bible?
So here's like the thing, right? We believe as Muslims, we believe the fact that Christians are the people of the book, and then the people that are Jewish are people of the book, right? So basically, like how the Old Testament is the Torah, specifically if you look at the King James version for the most part. Like, but then with with Christians, it's also we believe in the gospel of Jesus. So anything that came to Jesus and like all the miracles that he had besides dying on the cross was from God. And the one thing I will say, like the biggest like discrepancy that I get from Christianity is the fact that like it hasn't been preserved as it should have been, if that makes sense. Because I don't know if you know what the Council of Nicaea is by any chance. So like where there was like some editing and like that's that was like the actual like understanding of the Trinity and like the development of the Trinity. I believe that that's where it kind of created a huge divide between Christianity and Muslims specifically. But the thing with Islam too is that like the religion itself, well, from my standpoint, is that it's a perfect religion. It's just the people that make it the wrong religion. So and like we have sects as well, like how you guys have Christians, then you guys have Catholics, Protestants, stuff like that, right? We have like the only two sects I usually think of is like the Sunnis and Shias, right? So that's where it becomes a thing, right? Where it's not that's where the discrepancy comes in is like the religion is fine, right? The religion is perfect, but the people interpreting the religion is what's causing this huge divide.
You know, a Christian and Muslim standpoint, the actual interpretation plays a huge role. Like, you could read one verse in the Bible and it would be taken one way by one person by another. That's why you have to read it with context, having contextual evidence, because the Bible is a historical book of actual historical like things that actually happened.
Right.
You know, red letters are direct quotes from Jesus during his ministry. But I think when you read them out of context, like the thing that first comes to mind is like slavery in the Bible. Like when it talks about slavery, people are like, oh, the Bible's promoting slavery. It's like, in context, slavery was a part of the time. The Bible is not telling you go out and make slaves. It's saying, despite the fact that you are a captured nation or you owe something to someone, like you have to pay that debt off and obey your master.
Right.
And
It's like if you can't pay for the dinner, you gotta go.
exactly. But then, like, to me, a Christian isn't someone who's like goes to church on Sundays or reads the Bible. It's an actual Christ follower. Like, that to me is what like makes me a Christian, because like I have a desire to follow my Lord and Savior Jesus, who I know is King, and that's why I think it's heavily misrepresented. I'm not too sure about like Muslim. What would you say is like a misrepresentation of?
Like they were termed as jihadists, which means like the people that just kill themselves. In our religion, doing that is completely and utterly like you're not supposed to do that. That's a major sin because you're killing yourself. So basically, in the context of being like a martyr, is what they were trying to do, is actually going to war for the sake of God, right? So, like for example, with what's being popular right now is have you watched The Kingdom of Heaven, like the movie? With so basically, it's about King Baldwin the Fourth and then Salahuddin. Yeah, yeah. So basically, so the person that he's fighting against, Salahuddin, right? He if he died on the battlefield, he's considered a martyr, and the people that are martyrs and like die for the religion are considered like the highest rank to God. And so now that got crazy misrepresented by like specifically like Osama bin Laden and all them, right? So that I think that's the thing that just gets me mad is like people think that our religion is just like a dead religion, like where you're just like trying to kill yourself all the time, which it literally isn't, right? Because there's another quote from this was Baldwin the Fifth, so his successor, his nephew. is what he's or no, sorry, this was before. So this was when so like like how we go off of AD for like our years.
Yeah.
So the Islamic calendar is called after Hijra, so like after the Great Migration, because um they were losing against the people like so few of Muslims, right? And so what the quote was how can we win when they are not scared of death? So that got taken out of context of like, oh, they just want to die now, which
Yeah.
it's not that. It's like
Also talks about, those who are persecuted for my name's sake, like they will be, counted in heaven as I don't know if it says it like the highest in heaven, but it does say that those who die for my name's sake will not like go like punished, or like they will receive grace, which I can definitely be misrepresented as well as just go out and die.
Yeah.
But I think that's a call to die. But like if somebody came into the room, if somebody came in the room and like had a gun to your and I heads, and they were like say your belief is wrong, and we both said no, and they both killed us, like we did the right thing to our beliefs. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna put a gun to my head and I'm gonna say I believe this, and then like what the heck?
Yeah.
What the heck did you do? Like
Right.
that doesn't do anything.
Right. Literally.
If anything, Jesus dying on the cross, despite other people saying like deny it, deny it, deny it, that was like the same act of a righteous death, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I was gonna say because so actually what we believe as well is if you're going under against torture, it is actually permissible for you to practice your religion like privately. So that's where it becomes like a differ, because I believe it's in this oppression, but then that's when the Quran comes to say like, because the oppression that the Muslims were facing at the time was that they were basically like the first martyr of Islam. Like it was crazy. She basically got a spear through her private parts. But like the type of stuff that they were doing, like the manipulative torture, the psychological torture, the physical emotional torture, physical torture, then God basically revealed that you can practice your religion in private, but you can say whatever you need to say and it's permissible if you are tortured, which because of the fact that like it's not about what you say, it's about what's in your heart, right? So if you say something, like let's say like you say something out of just like make sure that your pain is done, and like you're getting tortured, right? Like let's say like they tell me to believe in this idol, or like this is my God or something like that. Like let's say like it tells me to say this is my God. If I say this is my God, but like I'm getting tortured,
And I think I guess you could say like the Christian standpoint of that is it says in scripture, if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is the Son of God, you will be saved. So it's like a two-part thing. I think everything is a spiritual act first and then a physical act. Like people don't understand that we are spiritual beings with a physical body. They think we're physical beings with like emotions and thoughts and whatever, but we're really spiritual beings that are going to last for eternity with a physical body now and then a physical body later. So everything is a spiritual act first. So that's why it says believe in your heart and confess. It's the tying between like the spirit and the flesh. And that reminded me of a story in the Bible. Do you know about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? It's in the Old Testament. Yeah, it's basically about three Jews and Christ followers who were I think they were under Egyptian oppression. I don't know if it's Egyptian, but I'm assuming at the time because that's what was chronologically happening. And they were basically worship our idol, worship like Baal, or worship this other god, this golden calf or whatever it was. And they said no, and there was like we bow to only one God, and that's our God. And they were thrown into a fiery furnace. So it's like the story of the fiery furnace in the Old Testament. Three of those guys were thrown into either an angel or the Holy Spirit who was protecting them in that fire. So it's like because of your faith that you believed in your heart and confessed with your mouth and still chose like that suffering, you were rewarded with like your art, God's divine protection.
It's like the story of Abraham.
Yeah.
It's like when I don't know. I think it's so like the story of Abraham when his dad literally threw him in the fire and he came out of the fire untouched. So like that was in the Quran where, so basically his dad was an idol worshiper, and you guys believe this as well. Abraham was a prophet at the time, right? So, when he got his prophethood, he was given the like the scripture of like, okay, believe, like it's a monotheistic religion, you got to believe in one God, like all that stuff, right? So then what happened was sermons and like trying to tell people that like believe God, like believe the oneness of God. So then it became so widespread that they needed to kill him off. So what happened was that his dad put him up and like they created a huge fire underneath him. And then the prayer that Abraham said was to protect me from this fire if unless it is my time to go. So then God basically, as soon as he got thrown into the fire, he walked out unscathed.
Yeah, and that's in the Quran.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen. I mean, I have not read like the entirety of the Bible front to back, but I mean, I haven't heard of that story in the Bible. But I know that, Abraham as a prophet. Like I guess you could say Christianity and Islam started with Abraham. They're Abrahamistic religions, or I forget what the title is called. Abrahamic, yeah. And because he had two sons. He had Isaac and for us it's Ismail. Okay, I'm not sure what it is in the Bible, but I know he had it with a surrogate mother because Sarah. Yeah, Sarah was in our religion or in our belief, Sarah is like the woman that God promised him to have a child with,
Yes.
and then
that was when he was really old.
yeah.
So both of them were very old. Sarah
Beyond childbearing.
Yeah. So Sarah was barren, and so then she had Isaac.
Yeah. So then, it's Abraham, Sarah, and then Hagar, who's an Egyptian, like I guess you could like maid or servant or whatever concubine. Yeah. So she helps around Sarah because Sarah is old and can't bear children. So then Abraham was like, all right, I'll have like Sarah actually came to Abraham and was like, all right, have a child with Hagar. That way I can have my kid and God's promise can be fulfilled. And Abraham was like, all right, cool. And then God then cursed or told Abraham like, I promised you a child with Sarah. Like you're gonna have a child with Sarah. You broke my promise. Islam Ismail.
Yeah.
Ismail will always then fight with Isaac because he did fulfill his promise, and Sarah actually did bear despite being beyond childbirth, did bear Isaac. But he said these two will always be like at quarrel with each other. It's literally Iran is literally planning an attack on Israel. Israel, the holy land of Abraham. Iran, part of the Muslim religion. Like it's literally like if I'm sticking to my morals and you're sticking to your morals, we can have a good conversation about it. So yeah, that's really cool.
I was low-key waiting for something to happen like that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
know
no,
both
I
of
mean,
y'all are deep into that.
Because I was gonna say, like, with people that are very like ignorant to the religion, that's who I like to debate. But you're very well versed in like both both religions. So like, it's really hard to debate somebody that's really like well versed in both religions. Like specifically, like when I'm debating somebody, all the verses, so it's just like you know what I'm saying. And like, but like how we've been talking though is like literally what is needed in the world specifically because of the fact that like exactly like and like what the Jews believe is that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Jews believe that Jesus was a false prophet, and then basically now the second coming of Jesus, we believe that as well. And I think you guys call it the final resurrection or something like that.
There are some who believe that. There are some who believe that like the second coming is the first coming. So like that Jesus didn't actually come down yet, but he's going to.
That's the Jews.
Yeah, there are some who believe that. There are non-Messianic Jews and Messianic Jews, those who, because the Jewish people, if you don't know, and for those watching who don't know, the Jewish people are like you were saying, like the people of the book. They're also like called like God's chosen people. They were chosen by like bear a savior. So like he was basically God was like, all right, Adam and Eve in the garden, you guys